Hello, I'm Molly Roth, and I'm a curriculum specialist in CEI's Meridian Professional Learning Program. I'm going to present a differentiated arts-integrated visual arts project that directly teaches English language arts. By engaging students in arts-integrated projects, students not only learn art, but are engaged, creative, inspired, and actually learn academic content while strengthening their social and emotional learning skills. This visual arts project that teaches ELA is called the Classroom Flower Patch Project. Students will create their flower sculptures to create a classroom flower patch when displayed during their final presentation. During this final presentation, students will showcase their flower sculptures, taking turns to discuss their artwork, the art-making process, and the English language arts skills they employed. Guided class may attend to listen to the presentations and engage with students through questions. To prepare, students will review images of flower artwork from previous lessons and participate in discussions to express their preferences and opinions. They will select key points from their writing to include in their final presentation, which they will record on flower-shaped paper attached to popsicle sticks using air-dry clay for support. After all presentations, students will contribute their sculptures to the classroom flower patch, creating a collective display of their creative efforts. This project addresses a wide range of visual art skills using a variety of household objects, gardening supplies, and traditional art materials to create a large-scale 3D figurative sculpture of a flower. During this project, students will develop essential art skills in figurative sculptures through observing and representing natural form. By creating a flower sculpture, they practice observing its structure and details. This process enhances spatial awareness and hand-eye coordination as students learn to manipulate materials like clay and pipe cleaners. Additionally, 3D visualization skills are cultivated as they see how each part of the plant can become a complete sculpture. This project also encourages creativity and imagination, allowing students to explore various art materials while honing their sculpting techniques. Students will build literary skills using science vocabulary as they learn about flowers. This unit will focus on language comprehension, with a focus on vocabulary development and oral language skills using nonfiction text. In studying flowers, students will develop key academic skills including sequencing, listening, and comprehension. They gain an appreciation for plant anatomy, enhancing their connection to nature. Additionally, vocabulary development occurs as they use specific terms in discussion, writing, and communicating. Each day, they'll learn about one part of a flower, then create that part on their flower sculpture. They will also write about each flower part and its function for each day. And students will strengthen SEL skills such as self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. This project is designed for kindergarten through second grade class of students with disabilities who perform at various learning levels. We have created multiple versions of this project to address the varied learning levels of the students. We have versions aligned with grade K standards, another aligned with grade 1 standards, and another aligned with grade 2 standards. We also have resource slide decks X, Y, and Z found in Appendix C that are great resources for you to use with students who are working towards the standards as they have modified content. I will begin with an overview of these K-2 differentiated versions. Then, I will discuss the curricular resources. Finally, I will model the actual teaching of it to a class of K-2 students with varied learning levels. Here's an example how the project is differentiated based on different grade levels. For grade K, they will write short phrases using at least 4 words to describe. For grade 1, they'll write phrases using at least 6 descriptive words to describe. And for grade 2, they'll write full sentences using descriptive languages to describe. And there will be resources for those students who are working towards the standard. For the art making, students in grade K will create the project mixing primary colors to get secondary colors. In grade 1, students will create the project mixing primary colors to get secondary colors with the option of adding white to change the shade. And in grade 2, students will create the project mixing primary colors to get secondary colors in different ratios to achieve different tints of green with the option of adding white to change the shade. Each grade level will have its own curriculum map and lesson plan. Each lesson will begin with an opening activity, where students will view artwork showcasing flowers and flower patches daily, with a focus on flower sculptures. In this activity, students will be encouraged to observe and discuss various aspects of the flowers, such as their parts, needs, and attributes. They'll express their feelings and connect with what they learn in their academic lessons by incorporating that knowledge into their flower creations. Students build literacy skills as they learn about flowers. The academic content for each day's lesson will directly relate to the part of the flower they will be working on during their art making. Students add words to a word wall and write words or short phrases on a flower-shaped paper. They will attach a paper to popsicle sticks to accompany their sculptures during their final presentation. For the visual art project steps, on day 1, students will begin making their sculptures by rolling clay into a seed shape and attaching it to a wooden name tag that they will attach to a plastic base. They will also create root systems for their sculptures using pipe cleaners. On day 2, students will create the stem, which will also serve as the armature of their flower sculpture, attaching zip ties that would be used to connect the leaf and petal. They will cover the stem with air-dry clay. On day 3, students will paint a round bowl for the center of their flower and a heart-shaped bowl to use as their leaves. On day 4, students will add details and texture to their leaf and center bowls. If they choose to, students can add a sculptural element to create the pistils or seeds in the center of the flower. On day 5, students would choose from various materials to create unique flower petals. On day 6, students will assemble their flower sculptures and add any details to complete them. And on day 7, students will host a gallery talk for an invited class and share their projects by choosing from their writing and memories from their experience. They'll contribute to the classroom flower patch after every student has presented their work. For the closing activities, students review the vocabulary words they've learned, part of their word wall. The teacher has the class reflect on the day and ask questions what they've learned, and students share what they created that day and how they felt about the process. Students observe and appreciate each other's work and provide feedback to each other. Grades K, 1, and 2 each have their own implementation slide decks for each day. We also have resource slide decks X, Y, and Z for you to use with those students who are working towards the standards. To challenge every student at their ELA level at every step of the project, teachers can select the classroom implementation slide deck that meet their students' needs and then combine multiple slide decks to address each student's learning level at every step of the project. Here's an example of one slide addressing all 3 levels of an ELA content for grade 2 students performing at different levels. All of this information and more can be found in the Project Resource Guide. In the introduction, you'll learn about the Meridian Program Overview, the Meridian Pedagogy, the use of arts integrated approach, teaching the same core content through music and visual arts, and the value of project differentiation. You'll get a project description, you'll have an overview of the project with the project description, the ELA skills addressed, the visual arts skills addressed, the SEL skills addressed, and the curricular materials. You'll also have an overview of the lesson components, the opening activities, academic mini-lessons, visual art project steps, the closing activities, the final product, the final exhibition, transition, and the supply list. There will also be a breakdown of the project differentiation for the 3-level versions of Grade K, Grade 1, and Grade 2, as well as Appendix C for the resource slides. You'll also find instructions on how to customize your classroom implementation slide deck. And now it's time for me to model the actual teaching of the Classroom Flower Patch project as if I was teaching a class of K to 2 students at all levels, challenging them at every step of the project. For the first day of the Classroom Flower Patch project, we will learn about the seeds and roots of a flower, and we will begin making our flower sculpture, starting with the seeds and roots. During the opening activity, you'll learn about different artists who create flower-inspired artwork. For the academic mini-lesson, you'll read from seed to plant and learn more about the seed and the roots. For your writing, some of you will recall what you've learned and write sentences. Others will fill in the blanks, and some of you may write a vocabulary word. For the first step of our Classroom Flower Patch project, we're going to create a seed and roots for our flower sculpture. We're going to use a wooden tag. On one side, you can write your name. On the other side, we are going to roll a little bit of air dry clay into the shape of a seed and attach it to the tag. Some of you may start the step by putting your plastic base together. And some of you may start with your plastic base put together for you. And some of you may start with a plastic base with a pipe cleaner already attached. You can attach a pipe cleaner to the base by putting it through one of the sections and twisting it to tighten it. Now let's add our seed and name tag. Put it through and give it a twist. We can create roots by bending pipe cleaners in place. Continue to add your pipe cleaners around your plastic base and twisting them to create more roots. Some of you might be using different sizes of pipe cleaners to add to your roots to make them more complex. After you have attached your seed and your name card and your roots to your base, you finish the first step of your very own flower sculpture for the Classroom Flower Patch project. And now it's time to review what you've learned. For day 2, we will learn about the stem of the flower, and we will create a stem for the flower sculpture. For the opening activity, we will look at some artwork and find different ways to make connections to what we are learning about and making for the day. For day 2's academic mini lesson, we'll continue to read from seed to plant and learn about the stem. We'll also learn different ways of describing flowers by color. Some of you may work on learning about colors. Some of you will work one color at a time. Some of you will work on color identification. And some of you may learn about the 3 primary colors. We'll build our vocabulary by describing the size of flowers, and some of you may recall 1 vocabulary word, 2 vocabulary words, or all 3 vocabulary words. To begin this step, some of you may start out by marking out 5 places on your trellis for your zip ties to be connected to. After you've marked your places off, you're going to loop your zip tie through the end to connect it to the trellis. Pull the zip tie as tight as possible. It's okay if it's a little loose. We'll be using clay in another step to hold this in place. Some of you may receive a trellis that already has one example of a zip tie attached to it, with the places already marked out for you. Another way that you can start this step is by starting off with an example already attached, the places marked out for you, and the zip ties prepared in a loop ahead of time, and you can put into place and work with a partner to tighten the zip ties around the trellis. Once we have all the zip ties in place, we'll use a little bit of air dry clay to help keep them in place. You might start off with a ball of clay and create smaller pieces of clay to put over the ends of your zip ties. Or you might work with one small piece of clay at a time to cover the end of each of your zip ties. Now it's time to add the bottom of our stem. We're going to use a dowel rod, some tape, and another zip tie. You can either tape this to one side of your trellis or have somebody help you. Next, you'll bring the other side close to the dowel rod and add some tape. And finally, either you can attach the zip tie or somebody can pre-loop it and you can secure the trellis to the dowel rod to create your stem. And just like we did with the zip ties around the trellis, we're going to add a little bit of air dry clay to keep this zip tie in place. And finally, I'm going to show you a couple different ways you can use air dry clay to cover your entire stem to make it green, just like the stem of a real flower. So some of you may be using green clay right out of the package, or you can mix two primary colors to get a secondary color. Yellow and blue are primary colors, and when you mix them together, you make a secondary color of green. We can change the shade of green by adding a little bit of white. So here I have two shades of green by adding a little bit of white to one of. You can also change the tint of a color by adding a little bit more of another color to it. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to change the tint of this green. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time using blue. So those are some ways you can make a variety of green by mixing yellow and blue together, adding white to get a different shade of green, or by adding more yellow or more blue to get a different tint of. For day 3, we'll learn about the leaves and different types of centers of the flowers. We will create the center and one leaf for our flower sculpture. We will begin the lesson with the opening activity. We will look at artwork inspired by flowers, and make connections to the real parts of a flower and the parts of the flower that you'll be making for your flower sculpture. Some of you will focus on learning about the parts of the flower and where they're located. And some of you will learn more details about the functions of those parts. We could learn about the different centers of flowers by viewing a short time-lapse video. We'll continue to build vocabulary with different ways to describe the color of flowers, learning that mixing two primary colors can make a secondary color. So just like when we mixed yellow and blue clay together, when you mix yellow and blue paint together, you make green. You can also mix yellow with another primary color of red to get the secondary color of orange. Mixing red and blue together, make purple. You can change the tint of a color by adding white. And change the shade of a color by adding more of one primary color to your secondary color. So I'm going to start this center of a flower by painting the inside of a bowl the color of my choice. Okay, I'm going to set this aside and let this dry. And I'm going to paint the curved side of this heart-shaped bowl green for my leaf. If you don't want to get your hands messy, you can paint one half of the leaf and let it dry, and then come back and finish the other side of the leaf once that has dried. And if you don't want to use paint for your leaf, you can use quick dry tempera sticks to add color. This is a great way to add some color and texture to your leaf if you don't want to use paint. And now that the paint on the inside of the bowl has had time to dry, I'm going to paint the other side. You can paint it the same color as you did the inside, or you can choose a new color. Let these dry, and then we'll finish them tomorrow. If you're someone who doesn't like to use paint, you might receive your bowl with 4 holes punched and a pipe cleaner attached to the sides of the bowl. Later, when we put everything together, this is how we'll attach the center of the flower to the stem. These pipe cleaners can be taped down to the surface to keep the bowl in place while you paint. And if you don't want to use paint at all, you can use quick dry tempera sticks to add some color to the center of your flower. And for the closing activity, you can review what you've learned about describing colors or express your opinions about colors that you like. For day 4, we will continue to learn about leaves and different types of flower centers. We will finish the center and the leaf of the flower sculpture. We'll continue to look at artwork inspired by flowers and identify the parts of the flowers that we're making in the flower artwork. We'll also compare real flowers to flower artwork. We'll answer questions and work on our writing by using either our memory or looking at our vocabulary words. And now it's time for the art making activity, where you'll finish up your leaf and the center of your flower. To finish up your leaf, maybe you need to paint the inside of your heart-shaped bowl or paint a second coat of paint all over the heart-shaped bowl. If you finish painting your leaf and it's totally dry, you can add some details with these quick dry tempera sticks. When we learned about the centers of flowers, we've learned that some flowers have pistils and some flowers have seeds, so you can choose if you want to put pistils or seeds on your flower. You can do the outside of the bowl or the inside of your bowl. Just like you did on the very first day, you're going to use air-dry clay to make the shape of a seed. But we're going to make more than one because this is going to go in the center of the flower. So I'll show you a way that you can make a lot of seeds. You can roll your clay into a long section and then break off small pieces and then shape these into little seeds. And then press them to attach them to the center of your bowl. So I've got some seeds, so I'm actually going to make a few more because I want to have a couple rows of these seeds. Making sure they're all in place, and I'll let those dry and then they'll stay attached to the center. For this one, I'm going to show you how you can add pistils to your flower. You could use either the curved side or the inside. I'm going to use the inside for this one, and I'm going to take a ball of clay, roll it, and then press it into the center to make sure that it sticks. We will be using cotton swabs to make the pistils. And remember, if a flower has pistils, it also has a stamen, so leave some room in the middle. We'll be adding the stamen in the next step. You can pinch the clay around the cotton swabs to help keep them in place. For our stamen, we'll use a silicone cap and some more air-dry clay. Press some of this air-dry clay into the silicone cap. Place it in the center of our flower, and then use a little bit more air-dry clay around the edges of the silicone cap to keep it in place. If you have any clay left over, you can put it back in the bag to save it for later. And that's how you can make the center of your flower with either seeds or pistils and stamen. What are you going to put in the center of your flower? And once again, for our closing activity, we'll review what we've learned for the day. For day 5, we'll learn about flower petals. We will create petals for the flower sculpture. We'll look at artwork and use our color vocabulary to describe what we see in the artwork. We'll learn that flower petals come in different shapes, sizes, and colors, and continue to use our vocabulary to describe different flower petals. Today you're going to be making your petals, and you're going to have a variety of materials to choose from. I'm going to show you what these materials will look like to give you an idea before you choose which one you want to use. The first one, you could use a paper plate. You could use this as a circle to make round petals. This could be folded in half to make a pointy petal, and this could also be rolled into a cone to make a petal that kind of looks like a triangle. You can also make petals with a paper tray. These will make long petals. There's also the option of a cardboard tray, and when it's attached, you can have it so that it curves in. You could also cut the bottom off of a cardboard tray and have a petal that curves this way. So those are just some options for you to choose to either paint or use tempera sticks to make your petals. And for the closing activity, we'll review what you've learned, or you can share your feelings and opinions. For day 6, we will review what we have learned about flowers, and we will add all of the parts of the flower to our sculpture. We can begin by sharing our opinions about some of the artwork that we have looked at. We can review what we have learned about and what we have made by either reviewing, using multiple choice, or using our memory. And now it's time to start putting all the pieces together to complete your flower sculpture. I'm going to start with attaching the center to the stem. You're going to have 4 holes in your bowl, and then use pipe cleaners to put inside and twist. For some of you, this step might be prepared ahead of time. Once you have all of the pipe cleaners attached to your bowl, we're going to attach this to the stem. So you're just going to loop your pipe cleaners around so that the center stays in the middle. Do the same thing on the other side. There you go. You have the center of your flower attached to your stem. And now we're going to attach our leaf to our flower sculpture. We're going to go ahead and flip this over. And then put some tape on the back of the leaf to attach it to this zip tie. And now we're going to use some air dry clay to cover up the tape and the zip tie to hold that in place. Okay, so we have our leaf attached to our flower sculpture. Finally, we're going to put our petals on here. I'm going to show you how you can use a paper plate to make a round leaf. We're going to flip our sculpture over and attach it from the back. I'll place some tape to attach the zip tie to the back of the paper plate. I'll use some air dry clay around the edges and put some on the zip tie. And then I'll use another paper plate to place on top of the air dry clay to keep this in place. And that's how you can use a paper plate to make a round flower petal. You can also make a flower petal by folding a paper plate in half and attaching it to the zip tie with tape and air dry clay. You could also roll your paper plate into a cone shape to create a triangle-shaped petal. We'll use tape and air dry clay to attach this to the zip tie. And then use air dry clay to hold the folds in place. And those are just some of the ways that you can use a paper plate to create a flower petal. You could use a paper tray for a petal and attach it with tape, air dry clay, and place another paper tray over top of the clay. here's how you could attach the option of a cardboard tray for your flower petal. Once you have all of your pieces attached to your stem, it's time to place your flower sculpture in the base to connect it to the roots and the seed that we made at the very first day. You might find it helpful to put a little bit of air dry clay inside of the base to help keep this in place. And there you go. You have your very own flower sculpture to add to your classroom flower patch. And finally, we can use the closing activity to name the classroom flower patch to get ready for our final presentation. Day 7 is the final presentation. We will share what we have learned about flowers and put our sculpture together to create a classroom flower patch. To get ourselves ready for the final presentation, we can share our thoughts and feelings about flower artwork and real flowers. And for the art making on Day 7, you can create a flower base with soil by wrapping a brown napkin around the base and adding it to a green fleece to create a flower patch. For your final presentation, you can identify each part of your flower sculpture, and you can read from your flower cards, worksheet, or writing. You can also talk about how you made your flower sculpture, and also you could talk about how learning about flowers and making a flower sculpture made you feel. And after everyone has presented their work, the sculptures will be displayed together to create a classroom flower patch. Once again, I am Molly Roth, Curriculum Specialist for the CEI Meridian Professional Learning Program. I wish you all the best in implementing this project with your students. Thank you.